On this CP short, we are doing a what we are reading. This is one that read probably a couple times. Been going over for quite some time, and that is "Every Day is Game Day" by Mark Verstegen, who is the founder of what used to be Athletic Performance and now is EXOS. This is a fantastic book. Kind of builds on his previous book of Core Performance, which, if you're in the personal training realm or just looking to kind of get started with your own fitness, Core Performance might be a good place to start. If you're thinking more sports performance, strength and conditioning, if you're working in that world, maybe looking for a new system or ways to modify or help your own, Every Day is Game Day is a great starting point for that. Can't recommend Exos's education side enough. So many good things to take out of there. But this is a really good overview of what they look at. And so really from the core of it, Exos is built on 4 pillars: mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery. Very seemingly simple and basic concepts, but ones that really, really have a high impact. And that's a lot of what I took away from this book personally, working in the Division III level with some very high level athletes in our division and what we do. But being able to take what are seemingly basic principles and concepts that are utilized by Exos to train some of the best, most talented athletes in the world, and how that can all be connected and you still get benefit without having necessarily all of the super fancy equipment that, yes, Exos has that. Their performance centers are top of the line, but the concepts that they build their whole programming and philosophy out of are ones that can be applied pretty much in any situation if you've got some basic equipment, and even then you can probably get really creative to do it without it. What I personally really liked about getting introduced to this system and this book is I was big from the athletic training side on mobility, trying to loosen up people's hips, work on foam rolling and the different soft tissue works, and just some banded mobilizations and other things there. And really what Exos' philosophy and programming when it comes specifically to strength and conditioning are building that right into the programming. So you are going and you're doing your explosive total body work, you're doing your primary movements for strength, power, hypertrophy, whatever block you may be in, but you're building in these accessory exercises or potentially prehab in quotes or corrective in quotes, where you're building it right into a superset, but you're also building in some mobility or even a small stretch or these exercises that can really have some meaningful impact. But because you're building it right into the programming and you're doing it as a superset, it's making it super efficient. So your athletes are basically moving at all times during the workout. It saves on time, and you're not doing a 10, 15, 20-minute post-workout stretching session that probably isn't getting people engaged as much as you'd like it to. They're probably just chatting. It's not just static stretching. And so this way of programming builds that right in and gets focus on some areas that may get overlooked otherwise. And that's been super effective, especially for me looking at it from both an athletic training and a strength and conditioning side. It just makes so much sense that it's hard not to want to continue to use that and have that be the thing that we do. Again, the nice thing about this book is it gives a very broad overview, gives you a good baseline, and really that's what we found to be effective. Is you start simple and you start building out. We've done some of the more advanced things, adding bands and chains and things like that with some of our athletes. And again, we're working with some really good ones here, but not everybody's ready for that. But you can still keep basic, simple concepts and really help develop it over time. And that's something we'd ultimately look to do is, could you have tiers of it as you go through? But then really the last one that's been the most beneficial from this, and they talk about it in the book, and again, a really good base for all of this, as I've mentioned, is figuring out how to train in all the different planes of motion, even if what you're doing as sport related isn't necessarily in all those planes of motion. What we have found is just through the focused soft tissue work and mobility, and some of the targeted accessory exercises, especially around the hip, and having more range of motion there and having just some more mobility has really cut down on a lot of the hip flexor, hamstring, low back type injuries, whether they be acute or even just the chronic ones, because people are just moving better and their bodies are better able to adapt to the stresses that they get put on it. So even our track athlete who's going straight forward as part of their entire competition and practice scheme, we still work in a lateral and rotational plane, because if something gets a little off or there's a misstep or something comes up, if we can have their body ready and generally prepared to accept that, we might be able to prevent something more serious from happening. And so really that's the thing we're focusing on, plus continuing to work on good movement, because it's hard to put strength on bad movement and have it be beneficial. We want good movement patterns to begin with, then we'll put on building the strength into it. So we're really trying to maximize all of this. And so again, if you've heard anything about the EXOS philosophy, this is a great starter book for it. Highly recommend checking it out. It encompasses so much into just focusing on the strength and conditioning side, but having it be as effective and efficient as possible, which is what everybody is probably looking for, because space and resources are always limited. So every day is game day. Mark Verstegen, well worth the read. We'll have a link in the post if you're checking this out on any of the podcast outlets. We'll have it up on our webpage under our resources tab for our performance. So go to clinicallypressed.com/performance resources. It'll be there. We'll also have it posted out on social media. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will talk to you all soon.